for looking at a world where change is the only constant. So again, welcome to another episode of Roots Connections on Q, where we recognize that change is the only constant. So we are happy to feature the change makers in our society, as we continue to witness the world around us continues to change. So we look at what changes we should be concerned about, the changes we should be taking advantage of, and what changes we need to make in order to move the Caribbean and our people forward. So we're very happy to be joined today by two lovely ladies from Dominica. Today we have with us Miss Whitney Mélinard, no stranger to Q95 radio. You will remember Whitney. She used to be an employee at Q95, but she has gone on to bigger and better things, and we're so proud of her. So she is the CEO, and you will correct me, Whitney, for the name of your company. I believe it's Kopounoule Inc. So when you come on, you will let us know the correct pronunciation, because I'm sure I'm butchering it right now. But she's the CEO of a company, and she's also a social and criminal justice advocate. And then we also have with us the lovely Emmana Jeffers, and Emmana is Dominica's Youth Advisory Group representative. So mouthfuls this evening on the titles of our guests, but we are so happy that they're joining us. And today we're looking at how our youth are leading the way with empowering our communities to be more resilient. We throw the word resilience around a lot in Dominica, but we are here to engage with our youth as we discuss how our communities can be more resilient in an ever-changing world. Whitney and Emmana will tell us all about what they do and how we as a community can support their efforts. And I have to say, they've both been on our program before, so we're very happy to watch as they continue to grow, evolve, and develop into women of purpose, women of passion, who are making a positive impact and changing the world around them. So again, welcome to Roots Connections on Q. This is episode number 88 for today, March 26, 2025. And I am your host, Simone Matthew. Let us give a warm Roots Connections welcome to our guests as they tell us, of course, their roots, their connections to Dominica, and a little bit about who they are. And then I'm going to go ahead and read their bios so you can get a better understanding of who our guests are tonight. So without further ado, Emmana, let's come over to you so you can greet the audience, say hi, where in Dominica you're from, and just anything you would like to share in the introduction.
So good night, everyone. I would just want to say thank you, Simone, for having me here tonight. So my name is Emmana Jeffers. I serve many purposes. I have many titles. Not many, just three. Just three for the time being. But the two main ones I'm going to speak about here tonight is one, I am the UN Youth Advisory Group representative for Dominica. I am also the Caribbean Environment Network Dominica chapter advisor, and also the chapter founder. So I will keep that tonight, keep it basic. There are other projects and initiatives that I am a part of, but I think you might have to call me back. So I just want to tell everyone here good night. I am from the beautiful community of Citronia, Newtown, basically Rosa South. And yes, that's just about it for me for now.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Manny, for being here. And then let's go over to Whitney so you can introduce yourself.
Good night, everybody. My name is Whitney Mélinard, and I am from the Kalinaga territory in Dominica. Unfortunately, I am not based at home. I am currently in Barbados. I work as a research associate at the University of the West Indies Cape Hill campus. I am the CEO of Kopounoule Inc., which means I am brave in the Kalinago language. And I, like Emmana, I hold a few hats. I am currently the 2025 Max Theobald Atkins Climate Ambassador, and I am also the 2025 CVF V20 Youth Fellow. I was also the fellow in 2024, and it is going to be a fellowship that goes on for quite a few years, and I am absolutely honored to be the not only the indigenous representative for my country, but one of two representatives from the entire Caribbean region. Um, and I will tell you more about it later.
Yeah, so as you can see, we have a lot to explore with these two fantastic ladies, and we're so proud of the work that they're doing. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring both Emmana and Whitney on this evening is because I think so many of our young people in Dominica, they're seeking direction. The typical fields do not suit them. We see a lot of our young women, they're doing entrepreneurship. We're seeing a lot of our young men doing music. But I always am concerned about other young people in Dominica and what avenues are there for them to pursue. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this program this evening is to provide a showcase, to showcase what these two lovely ladies are doing, because probably it will spark interest in our other young people. So this may be something that they may consider exploring as well. So I'm looking forward to everything that Emmana and Whitney are going to share with us this evening. So let me go ahead and read you their bios so you can get a better understanding of our guests this evening. So we'll begin with Whitney. Whitney is an indigenous advocate from the Kalinago territory in the Commonwealth of Dominica with a background in journalism and a passion for intersectional advocacy, climate justice, and human rights. She rose to prominence advocating for climate and social justice through improved internet access in her community, particularly after Hurricane Maria's devastation in 2017. Whitney's effort led to recognition as the most inspiring Kalinago youth female for 2020. Responding to pressing social and environmental challenges facing the Kalinago community, Whitney founded the Kalinago Ripple Effects Initiative. This initiative highlights the importance of Indigenous perspective and advocates for meaningful policy reform. As Chief Executive Officer and Communication Lead of Kopounoule, soon to be rebranded as Phil's Foundation, she guides a youth-led, Indigenous-led, women-led NGO addressing social inequities, promoting sustainable environmental solution, and advocating for the well-being and inclusion of marginalized communities. Whitney's academic credentials include a degree in international relations with sociology from the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, where she currently serves as a research associate. Her professional aspirations center on developing policy and conducting research at the critical intersection of climate and justice, with a focus on creating equitable, sustainable futures for Indigenous communities. So quite a bit of information, but what I want us to take from what I'm doing right now in terms of reading their bio is just how ambitious our young people are. Because I think we spend a lot of time complaining about what our young people are not doing, but are we supporting their interests? Are we supporting what they're truly aspiring to be? So I want us to take a close listen, because here is Emmana's bio. She is a young lady from the Commonwealth of Dominica who has a wide range of interests, including music, sports, and youth advocacy. Her academic journey includes associate degrees in economics and history from the Dominica State College, a BSc in international relations with a minor in management. She got that in honors, and a MSc in International Trade Policy. She earned that with a merit from the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus. She has work experience within the fields of international development and international trade policy. This includes internships and contracts with organizations such as UNDP, OECS and Caribbean Export Development Agency. As a youth leader, she has 4 years of experience in climate change advocacy and youth involvement across various issues. She has held several youth network and organizations leadership positions within her home country and the wider region. Notably, OECS, U Report Country Lead, National Youth Council of Dominica Environmental Committee Chairperson, Caribbean Youth Environment Network Dominica Country Chapter Lead, and current National Advisor. Her overall aim as a leader is to create spaces for young people in high-level discussions that affect the youth so they can be more engaged and involved decisions that affect them. So ladies, I just want to begin by saying congratulations, because it's always rude to ask a lady her age, but I'm guessing that neither one of you is 30 as yet. And to just witness what you have been able to accomplish today is quite impressive, and you should be really proud of yourself. So what I want us to begin by doing this evening is just kind of telling our audience how you became interested in the paths that you're currently on. So what drew your interest? Because I don't hear too many young Dominicans being interested in climate justice and a lot of what you are exploring right now. So I want us to look at what drew your interest into this field. So Emmana, let's go ahead and start with you. What brought you where you are today?
Wow, that is a long journey. It actually started in high school. And in high school, I was a bit more withdrawn. So I wasn't really out there in high school. And I started working my way up. But in high school, with a group of friends, that was the first solution to a problem that I saw that I would have brought up confidently with a group of my classmates. I saw that there was a bullying issue in the school. And I said, you know what? Why don't we? And that's like we were just speaking as in our class. Why don't we, our class, form an anti-bullying movement? There's the Credit Union Association. I think it's Credit Union Nets. They used to call themselves. There were different little associations in the school, but what about the association that is directed to finding solutions to a social issue? And that was bullying at the time. And it started there on, I think, the group of class members took it up, and it actually went on for the remainder of the year that we would have been there at Convent High School. That's the high school that I went to. And then in college, I started to break up more, and I got involved with the journalism club and what's the name of it? I think it's the business league. Yes, the business league, the BSE business league. And then everything came in a full circle at university. I think that's when I truly broke out, and I was encouraged to take up leadership positions in the school. It began with the Dominican Students Association, and then following the Dominican Students Association, I would have got involved in other associations in the school, such as the Political Science Students Association, also the Student Government, also known as the Guild, so the UE Guild. I would have gotten a position on this, so to basically put myself out there and service my fellow school members. And the climate change aspect started with whilst I was doing international relations. In every course, especially you're looking at international relations in a Caribbean context. So you have things like international security, you have things like international trade, you have um, things like Western political thought, you have different courses. And in almost every single one of them, climate change came up in terms of international security for the Caribbean, especially in a Caribbean context. Climate change came up as a security issue in the Caribbean. International trade, climate change came up as an issue in the Caribbean. In terms of international negotiations, which was a course, we had to do a little play make. So we do these playbacks, and the subject was on climate change, and I represented a a small island developing states country. If I recall, it was one of the Pacific Islands, and I had to do a little playwright on that. I also did a model Commonwealth meeting that we had at school, and I would have had to represent again a small island developing states, and the topic was on climate change. And in Barbados, because I also went to school with Whitney in Barbados, there was a lot of talk going on about climate change and climate resilience. And what I saw was that a lot of young people were involved, to the point where I think a 10-year-old or 8-year-old at the time was being highlighted for working climate change. And then I'm looking at my country and I'm like, "Look, Dominica said we're going to be the most climate resilient country in the world,
Mhm.
at a certain date." And I'm not seeing that engagement of young people back home. So I made it my duty to try to get more involved. So I started with the NYCD being the environment committee chairperson out there, and I started to engage other like-minded younger persons. And even going further, I saw that the Caribbean Youth Environmental Network was an organization which basically got persons involved in these discussions at high level. So it gave a lot of opportunities to persons from the Caribbean to take part in high level discussions at the international level on climate change. So I saw it fitting that Dominica should have a chapter.
Mhm.
And through that chapter, then we can have more discussions happening, and we can get, because you will be surprised to know the amount of young people in Dominica who are knowledge. Not only do they want to know, but they are knowledgeable about how climate change affects us, and they want to get involved. They are aware of its impact, and if you ask any of them, they can bring you back to Hurricane Maria or even Hurricane Erica. Sorry, Tropical Storm Erica. So all of that motivated me, and of course, just the fact that many young people after come to me and say, Emmana, I like the work that you're doing, and you actually got me involved in this area, and you actually was able to, you know, help me find a pathway in this area, and I have a passion for it, and I always wanted to be involved, but I didn't know where and how to become involved. And so thank you, and that just keeps me motivated to
Mhm.
keep going. So that's where it started, and that's where it is going now. Right now, I'm currently in the UN as part of the UN Youth Advisory Group, and it's basically young people ensuring that the UN youth initiatives are going to plan, and that they are targeting the right audience, or they have a holistic target of the right audiences amongst young people in the different sections of the world that they are operating in. And
Mhm.
so I will stop here and let you go to Whitney.
Yeah, and so much to unpack. Thank you so much. And kudos to University of the West Indies for keeping climate resilience and the importance of keeping climate on the forefront, even in its curriculum, because it is a change, and we see how it's impacting us in Dominica and the Caribbean region. So I really want to commend them for keeping this on the forefront and including it in your studies. So, and as we see, I forgot to mention, as we see the Facebook audience coming in, let's say a pleasant good evening to the listeners on the radio, the Facebook audience. Havis Badwill, nice to see you. He says good evening all. And don't forget, if you're listening on the radio and you want to join us on Facebook to post your comments, you can do so at Q95 FM radio, as well as, well, push button is not working for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but we are live on Q95 FM radio, both on Facebook and on YouTube. Good evening to you, Lambi. Where are my manners? Good evening to Lambi, Mr. G, the Q95 family, and Sherwin. Thanks as always for keeping us connected. So, Whitney, let me come over to you. Tell us how you got interested in this particular field. And again, it is about, providing exposure so that anyone else who's interested in pursuing this path, because I hear the passion when Emmana speaks about this, so I can tell that she is on the right path, and I can tell that she's going to go places with this particular field of interest. So Whitney, over to you.
Hi, thank you. I think this is why Imana and I get along so well, because our beginnings and our path, it's quite similar. Like Emmana, I also started my advocacy in high school, and that was after the passing of my brother. So I advocated for services, mental health services, particularly a therapist at the school, so that other young people who are going through hardships, pain, like I went through, so that they would have the resources and the people there, so that they could speak to, that they could seek help. And I also I was not a very outgoing person. I kept to myself. My classmates can attest to that. And even now, when I meet them and they know of what I do, and sometimes it's, I didn't know you were that person. So that is how I started. And it began as me being really passionate about social justice, because that is what I saw around me. I saw the social injustices in my community. I saw things that did not sit well with me. I saw things that I hoped and prayed would eventually change. And I saw that I could do something to change. I cannot change people. I cannot enact policy, but I can speak up. I can speak to other people. I can rally people. We could get together and try to effect change that we would want to see in our society. So that is how I started advocating for social justice. And it was after Hurricane Maria when I essentially lost my brother for a second time. My mom and I, we were at home, and the things that we had of him, his pictures, his clothes, more than losing a house, to me, that was the biggest loss. And that is how my journey to climate justice started. So then again, we had the, I think, 2-year run without internet, broadband internet access within the Kalinago community. And then I saw it fit to speak up about it, because even if I was not living in the territory at the time, I had family there. I knew about the situation, and to me, it felt unfair, it felt unjust, and I had to speak up about it. And then I saw the intersection between social justice and climate justice, in that internet access is a human right, and it was also an impact of a climate-related disaster. And I saw that intersection, and it just stuck with me. So I continued on advocating for both social and climate justice. As we like to say, Emmana would be aware of this phrase that is common in the CYEN group: climate justice is social justice. Social justice is climate justice. So yes, that is how I started, and I took the initiative to do some research. Again, with the University of the West Indies, we do have courses with climate justice, environmental policy embedded in our coursework, in our programs. So that helped a lot in terms of me educating myself and finding the information that I needed to find to advocate for people, for myself effectively. In terms of leadership, I was also, I did not take up a lot of leadership roles in high school or in college. Again, I was a very reserved person, but I did so as the vice president of DOMSAC in my first semester, well, my first term at school. And then I took a very long break from the public eye. I tried to focus on my studies and really find myself, find my passion, find what it is that I want to contribute to the world, and what is it what I want to do, because I'm trying to be intentional with what I say and what I do. Again, my goal is, it's not for me. Having understood and felt how short life is, I want to create a space where I leave a door open for other people, for other young generation. I know I'm not the only person in the climate justice space. Emmana is right here with me, and I don't quite agree with the first statement that you begin with, that there are not a lot of youth involved in the climate space. There are a lot of us in Dominica. You would be surprised.
Good.
You'd be surprised.
Good to know.
there are a lot of people involved in the climate justice space just in our little country, and I hope I get to speak about this later on more in depth. But one example is my project, Kopounoule Inc.'s project, a research-based project evaluating the non-economic losses of climate change on our indigenous community.
Yeah, go ahead and tell us about it. Just tell us about it one time. I don't want to forget.
Sure. Okay, so the project is titled the Kalinago Territory Non-Economic Losses and Damages Documentation and Advocacy Project. And the intention of the project is to find out the connection between climate change and our cultural history, our traditional knowledge, and our community cohesion. So as a foundation, we are, as you said, women-led, youth-led, indigenous-led mostly. And the goal of the project is to really empower other people. It is to build a sustainable community and to just really support and empower marginalized and vulnerable communities. And so we thought, what better way to start than to do the groundwork, to do the research, because it is one thing to represent somebody and you do not know what you are representing. Yes, you feel passionate about it. Yes, you want to see change, but you need to do the work to know how to effectively advocate, represent, and create projects for these people so that they last, so that there is longevity, and the community itself, the community members, they can connect with the work, they can carry it on in your absence, which is really the goal of what we're doing, so that when we are not there and when the project ends, our community members, our youth leaders can carry it on. So we had our research component of the project has just finished. We had 12 enumerators from each hamlet in the Kalinago territory. And we stuck with our 12 enumerators as opposed to trying to get as many people as possible. And the intention behind that was to create a group of young people from across the Kalinago territory with all the hamlets, so that at least there is one person in each hamlet who is knowledgeable, who has the capacity to advocate for climate justice or whatever issue that they deem fit, whether it's social justice issue, a climate justice issue, whatever it is, that they have the capacity to do so. And we decided we're going to stick with our 12 enumerators and we are going to empower them to do just that. So our project, we are going to have our stakeholder meeting this Friday at 4:30 p.m. at the Sensi Resource Center. And if anybody on the live right now would like to attend, there will be transportation, there are refreshments, so please go ahead. You could send me a message on Facebook or on Instagram and just get in contact. That would be no problem at all.
Yeah.
But back to the project.
And also at the end of the program, I'll have you both of you provide your contact information. But Emmana, I'm coming to you in a minute because I also want to hear about the projects that you're involved with. But go ahead, Whitney. You can finish up.
Yes. So the research project, we had 4 aspects of it, and that is to capture the 4 traditional livelihoods and cultural heritage that we thought were lost due to climate-related disasters. And that included the basket weaving aspect, boat making aspect, medicinal herb knowledge, and our indigenous cuisine, to find out how climate change has led to the deterioration of these aspects of our culture. So we have done that research, and the findings will be shared with the community, with our stakeholders. And in terms of our advocacy, we have had team building and capacity building advocacies. I think we've had a 5-day session in Roseau environs where our youth enumerators and other youth, Kalinago youth, has come down to get that training. And we have also had climate justice awareness programs. So that is what we're doing in terms of our advocacy, and we have more to come. The project officially ends on March month end, this March 31st. Mm-hmm. However, we do have some more advocacy sessions coming up. So if you do want to attend and you are interested, you will find our details at the end, and I will share that with you. I'll share the information. So it is ongoing, and I will let you know about the different aspects, because it's not just one thing. For example, I was speaking to Emmana just last night, and we were planning and plotting on, on what to do and how to be as inclusive as possible. So there are more things coming about that project. But yeah, so that is what I'm doing right now in terms of my projects. And again, I try to be as involved. I try to find things that align with what I do, what I am passionate about. Um, so yes, and in terms of the foundations, the fellowships that I've been involved in, for example, the CVFU fellowship. As example, I was the fellow
So
last
Whitney,
year.
hold on the fellowships in just a little while. I'm going to come back to you so you can tell us about the fellowships. I'm making a note so I don't forget. And by the way, my sincerest sympathies on the loss of your brother and having to lose him twice. My heart goes out to you. So again, my sincerest condolences on your loss. But even the project that you're speaking about, I can see how it can be expanded to the rest of Dominica.
That is the intention. That is
Okay,
absolutely the intention. I like to look at this one as a pilot project, and
right.
we will use the mistakes that we've made, the limitations, to guide a future project. We want to make it nationwide to look at the non-economic losses and damages, because that is our focus at the moment, on Dominican culture, Dominican tradition, and to see if there is a connect there, and to see how climate change intersects with different aspects of our society. So that is a plan. That is something that we are looking forward to in the future. And to take it even further, we'd want to have, hopefully in a few years, to do another one on a regional level where we can connect with other indigenous groups in the Caribbean that I do not believe is getting enough attention, that I do not believe that we have enough solidarity and cohesion with. So that is something that is definitely in our future.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll come back to you so you can tell us about your fellowships. But Emmana, your projects, what are you doing? And then I also want to speak to you guys because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you both attended COP29. Imana, you attended as well?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
I want to hear all about that. And our audience will be fascinated to even know. Many people may not even know what is COP29. So I'm hoping that you guys will tell us. But Imana, in case anybody missed it, what exactly is climate justice?
So climate justice is basically how climate change affects different sectors of this. Or is it, well, let me correct my definition. To me,
Mhm.
is the social impact of climate change. That's how I
Right.
like to do it. Quite simple. And it basically is how climate change creates challenges for different persons in our society and
Mhm.
even the most vulnerable.
Yeah, and
And
I guess the justice part comes in that more marginalized people have a greater
yes,
disadvantage when they're impacted by inclement weather. So it's kind of not equal in terms of how folks
yes,
are affected by climate change.
yes. Although I like to be the devil's advocate, so there has been some arguments, especially by the male population, that they are becoming a vulnerable group too. Because usually they're left out of the climate justice conversation, and it's the focus is on women, children, the disabled community, the elderly, the youth,
Right.
and the men are saying that they feel like they're also vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
at this point in time. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of curb the definition to make it inclusive,
Mm-hmm.
to make it
Mm-hmm.
inclusive, because
That's
it's not just
important.
yes, it's not just
Yes.
women that are seen that are vulnerable now, but men are seeing themselves as being vulnerable in our society these days. And I don't like to put aside persons and what they see as important to them. I like to make
Right.
it inclusive. So
Mm-hmm.
that is what climate justice is. On my part of climate change, I don't focus too much on the justice side. Yes, I concentrate on youth, but my focus is not so much on the justice aspect of climate change. I want to involve youth, and I want to get youth that have different interests within the climate change arena out there to be able to speak about their interests, such like Wendy is doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I look at climate change and its impact on our economy, that the economic impact. As you know, my field is international development and international trade. And within these areas, you have law, you have also economic policy as central characters
Mhm.
of the whole international trade policy field. It's a very, very broad field. Sometimes people hear trade and they think about sending Dashin to St. Martin to sell, but trade is much more than that.
Right.
Trade is much more than that, and I like to call trade the backbone of any economy. That's the backbone
Absolutely.
of the global economy. That is what trade is. And you
Mhm.
have the legal aspect of trade and you have the economic aspect of trade because it's a legal body that administers trade to the rest of the world. So I look at climate change within an economic and legal lens. And I think when we go into COP and my role at COP, then we can
Yeah.
even dive deeper in there. So I look at in terms of, and even where I worked in a Caribbean Export Development Agency, that was one, and the OECS, we looked at climate change and how it affected the private sector of the Caribbean. The OECS and for Caribbean, the Export Development Agency, you have CARIFORUM. And CARIFORUM is basically um, CARICOM, including Dominican Republic. So you had that, we had projects catering to different companies at the private sector of the Caribbean, and we had to look at one of the main objectives right at the time that I was there, and even now, is how can the private sector of the Caribbean move towards being resilient? How can they access climate finance? How
Mhm.
can they tap into the loss and damage fund? How can they tap into the adaptation fund? How can it be inclusive of the private sector? So that is more my focus.
Mhm.
And climate change is a very broad topic, and it's intersectional.
Mhm.
So various sectors are included in there because you have climate change and then you have agriculture, you have climate change and you have finance, and that goes into other areas. You have climate change and you have gender and you have just transition and you have a whole lot of different issues and different topics surrounding this climate change. So you understand how much of an effect it is in this world today.
Mhm.
Or what you can call it is a changing phenomenon. So
Mhm.
it's changing a lot of things in the world today. And that is where my interest lies in the topic. And which brings me to the projects. So as I said, I'm a part of the Caribbean Environment Network. And we've had a number of projects catering to various areas of climate change. We did have a climate justice project. That's what we started off with in Dominica. So our first project in Dominica was the climate justice workshop for indigenous people. So we held that in the Kalinago territory. We had climate advocates from Dominica. As we said, there are a lot. So we had persons like Miss Janelle Brisbane, Miss Christiana Paul from We Planet, basically bringing themselves to the Kainago territory to expose them to their field and their passions or what they're working in climate change, and giving them a rundown of what is climate justice and how they can be involved. The organization that I work with, the Caribbean Youth Environmental Network, Dominica chapter, currently has 30 members. So you have about 30 people who are seriously engaged and partaking in climate change advocacy in Dominica from just from that group,
Mhm.
and there's more outside, and you have them interested in different areas across the sectors. So even what I recognize as being important as having young people partaking in high level conversations, we also had um, our members attending the COP for land management. That was that was done in Riyadh. I think I can't remember the exact name of the COP. With the, if you know, you can jump in. But it's a COP in terms of focusing on land management, and we had Miss Tiffany Master attending for Dominica, and she's also a member of the Dominica Youth Agriculture Association. We also
Was
had
that
we also
was it the
had
biodiversity
Mr.
talk?
No, that's not a biodiversity talk. That's a different talk. So there are many different conferences. We also have Mr. Gary Ogis representing Dominica at several conferences, including Great Caribbean Conference. He also has a great research going on the Cicero parrots in Dominica, and he's actually counting them following Hurricane Maria to find out what's the count in Dominica for the Cicero parrots and how the climate change is affecting that. We have a current project. We also focus on research. So we have a project that is ongoing, which is the Youth in Resilience series, where we are basically highlighting young people and their work that they are doing in climate change, particularly in research areas. So our next highlight is going to be a young lady by the name of Miss Josiane Leblanc, and she did some research with other young Caribbean professionals on climate change and how it affects health public health in the Caribbean region. So you have young people in Dominica not only advocating, but they are actively working and taking part in research. And we have a number of conferences upcoming that young people from Dominica will be represented.
Yeah,
So
and I'm really happy. Whitney corrected me in terms of the awareness that young people, because we don't often hear about this project. So I'm so happy that you are here to share with us what is going on in the space of climate advocacy, climate resilience, because there is space for this. There is a need for this because, as we know, we're facing so many challenges, so many battles in Dominica and in the world that our attentions are constantly being pulled all over the place. But then the question becomes, who is advocating for the future of our planet? Because that is a real concern. That is a real challenge that we are facing. So I think most of us, I'm speaking for my audience, are feeling comforted knowing that there is a movement out there where the focus is on the climate. But what exactly is a climate advocate? You mentioned a climate advocate. So what does a climate advocate do? And I think a question that may be on the mind of our listeners and viewers as well is, are you working in collaboration with WAVE? Because we know we have a association in Dominica on the preservation of the environment. So are you doing any work with collaboration in WAVE? So two questions, and either one of you can feel free to jump in. What is a climate advocate? And are you working in collaboration with any other organizations on the world? And then we have to discuss this very important question of climate, because as we know, climate does not only involve the environment, but climate can involve, social, political climate, because I think many of us would agree that the climate that you all as youth are growing up in right now is quite tumultuous. So kind of how are you navigating a world that is in such turmoil and the impact that you're having on that world? But first, let's look at what is a climate advocate, and are you working in collaboration with any organizations on the ground?
okay, I will just continue because I was actually heading into it in terms
Okay,
of collaboration. So on some of our projects are in collaboration with other organizations, namely even the Ministry of Environment is one of our key
good,
stakeholders and
good.
collaborators. And I always say publicly, thank 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 you to them.
Mhm.
Frederick and the senior technical advisor, Mr. Edgar Hunter, who is actually leading the charge for us. He's advocating, I would say, advocating on our behalf.
Excellent.
Also, we have the partnership, PISLM, partnership initiative for sustainable land management in Dominica. It's a Caribbean initiative. They have an office here in Dominica, and they have been supporting CYE and in the Caribbean, not just Dominica, but several chapters, and they have partnered with us on workshops, different workshops, and other initiatives. So we had a workshop on youth in climate adaptation, where we had schools from the Roseau area attending a workshop and basically it was like a consultant um, speaking about climate adaptation and how they can get involved, giving them knowledge about it and what areas of climate change are there and how the reason why climate adaptation is important to us in Dominica as a small island developing state, where it comes from, what it's about, and you know what is the future like for them with climate change in terms of their profession. And that was mind blowing because the young people in Dominica at the high school age knows they know about the different aspects of climate change. They were able to answer the questions, they were able to follow, and they were heavily engaged in the topic and the
Ex-
conversation. I think even and at that consultancy and workshop, we had the minister present, we had the PS present, we also had the director of solid waste, we also had the director of forestry present, and they were mind blown because they did not expect the young people to be so interested in that. They did not
Mhm.
expect that level of interest from young people in Dominica. So there is definitely an interest about climate change in young people in
Yeah,
Dominica. So I
and
would,
it's yeah, and it's great to hear the ministry's involvement. It is wonderful to hear about the ministry's involvement because they have the capability of pushing this out into the wider Dominica. So I'm really happy to hear that the ministry is a stakeholder in this important initiative.
yes. So
Yeah.
I would say that a climate advocate is someone who seeks to educate people about climate change. So someone who seeks to ensure that the topic of climate change remains relevant and is continuously spoken about. Someone who ensures that various stakeholders across different sectors, across different societal positions are engaged and included in the conversation of climate change and how it affects the different sectors or the different aspects of our society.
Mhm.
And so that's my answer for the climate change. I would say no, we haven't partnered with WAVE as yet. We should, but we have partnered with other organizations. Like we said, we have been engaged with Wild Dominique, We Planet also. Um, some of our members are part of other organizations because they're also the Sustainable Oceans Association. I think it's SOA, and we also looking to partner with them. We've been engaging with them also on joint projects that we can do, and of course, Whitney's Whitney's NGO by default. We're partnering with her, and CYN looks to do that in Dominica. We want to ensure that all stakeholders are connected because sometimes this one is doing this over here, this one is
Mhm.
doing this over here, and we're all looking to basically reach the same objective.
Yeah, the
So
synergy makes it more effective.
yeah, and if we get funding, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't partner with others
Mhm.
to spread it across the board. It's all about
Mhm.
inclusion, and that's what we're looking at. And like I said, most of our members are part of other groups. So you would
Mhm.
have members of CYN that are part of Wild Dominica, that's a part of SOA, that's a part of the Commonwealth um, Climate Youth Network, and Whitney is also a CYN member. So you can see we have members that are basically cross-cutting. For my working as the UN Youth Advisory Group, I just started. I've just been appointed.
I was
So
about to ask you that.
I've
Yes,
just been
tell us
appointed.
what you know so far.
So it's very, very green. Not very green. We're in planning stages. Um, should I be saying that? But we're in planning stage. I think I can say we're in planning stages right now. And I am basically using my what I know from my research. CYN has held target group consultancies on island. So we have research that has fed into regional research on youth and youth thoughts about climate change and how it affects them and their knowledge. We've also had regional projects such as disaster risk management training. We have done that. That was funding by the USAID, and that would probably feed into the turbulence that we are going around in the world because you know what's happening in the USAID right now. So some of our projects has actually been cancelled because they were funded by the USAID. So we're in that type of environment, and I guess that can go into another conversation that we will
Yeah,
have
and we'll
later
talk
on.
about how you're navigating that environment. But brilliant, very well said. And guys, keep the comments coming in on the Facebook. I'm gonna come take them in a little while. But Whitney, anything you would like to share on at this point? And you were also about to tell us about your fellowships, because what we're trying to do is really give a broad perspective of everything that you do. And my goal with that is not just only to inform our audience, but as I mentioned in the beginning, is to get even more youth involved, even more Dominicans who are interested in exploring, climate resistance and how climate change is impacting Dominica, the Caribbean, and the world. And they're looking to get involved, giving them a broad perspective on what you do and where they can potentially fit into the equation of what we're talking this evening. So tell us about your fellowship so we can get a better understanding of what you do in that area.
Sure. I would just like to add to Emmana's definition of a climate advocate, in that I would say that it is also somebody who not just advocates for the inclusion of climate in our spaces, or sustainable energy or sustainable development, not just for that conversation to be maintained, but also someone who champions tangible climate action. So I would just like to add that as well. In terms of my fellowships, I am currently as I would have mentioned before, the 2025 Max Theodore Atkins Climate Ambassador, and it is a program of the World Bank. And essentially, it is a capacity building program where we are taught on the work that the World Bank is doing in climate spaces with regard to agriculture, water, for example. And we are required, I think, at the end of the project to have a project that is implemented in our communities, but that it comes later down in the project. I am also a CVFV 20 fellow, and the CVFV 20, it is the Climate Vulnerable Forum Vulnerable 20 that President Mia Motley is currently the sitting president of. So I am that fellow again for 2025. I did it last year, and I was interviewed to return to the fellowship for 2025. I did not apply to the fellowship because I felt that it would have been unfair for me, and it would have taken the opportunity from some other youth from the Caribbean to apply. So I did not do so myself. But a few weeks ago, I got an email at the middle of the night that I have been invited to interview, and the interview was just about my work. After the project in 2024 was from October before COP. And it was just the work that I was doing, the work I did at COP, the work that I have done since then, and I got the position to be a fellow again. And the only other fellow in the program from the Caribbean is a young gentleman from Haiti. So we are the two representing the Caribbean in that climate space. It is also a program on capacity building, on training to be in the negotiating space, to be in the climate space, so that we can represent our communities to the best of our abilities, so that we have the knowledge and the experience to do so in these spaces, again, to champion tangible climate action within our communities, within our countries, and within our regions. So that's the two main programs that I am in right now. I am also a fellow of the Caribbean Climate Justice Journalism program, and that is a fellow of Climate Tracker Caribbean. That I am a fellow of the fourth quarter, and it is coming to an end. And it is a program that empowers climate journalists to tell stories on climate justice within their regions and within climate spaces that they are passionate about. As Emmana would have mentioned, there are a lot of intersections with climate justice and climate change. Again, it is a very intersectional topic. So it is climate justice on different communities, different countries, different aspects of our society, and to just really amplify the voice of the people who are vulnerable, who are marginalized, who we believe should have a louder voice and a say in the climate space. So these are the three projects that I am currently involved in, the three fellowships that I'm currently involved in. Previously, I have been involved in the Caribbean Climate Leaders Academy. That is a program of island innovation. And it is through that program and through their partnership with Canary that we got funding for our current project. And in terms of empowering other youth, something I try to do is keep track of the fellows, the programs that I have previously been involved in, to keep close with the organizers so that I get an email, a text message of when the next fellowship is coming, when there's another opportunity coming. I keep very close eye on the Instagram pages so that I know when an opportunity is coming up where I may not be able to apply or I might not be interested in applying for at the moment. Because again, I try to keep what I do very intentional so I can share that opportunity with another youth. It doesn't specifically relate to Dominica. Broadly, any youth in the Caribbean who is interested in the climate space, I try to share that as possible. My inbox remains open to anybody. If you have a question about, as you asked, what is a climate advocate? Who is a climate advocate? What is climate justice? My inbox is very open, and I try to be as available as possible to anybody who has the questions, who is interested in the climate space, so that I can share these links. I can try to get them in contact with people who have an even larger network than I do, so that they can get into these spaces and they
Yeah.
could find their voice.
Yeah, and that is exactly where I was going, Whitney, because a lot of people, when I bring on inspiring guests like you, a question we get all the time is, how are you finding these opportunities? And I always remember when I had Jody Dublin on my program, and she said, they don't just fall from the sky. You have to get involved. You have to join organizations. You have to network. You have to put yourself out there. So for you guys, that is the question for you. How are these opportunities? Because I think many people think that the opportunities just drop on your lap, that you're just sitting at home doing nothing, typing a random assignment, and then you just get an email. But tell us what is involved in, for example, Emmana, for example, you getting involved in the UN. How did that come about? Because I want us to create a pathway. I want us to open a door. And I really like what Whitney said in terms of, paying it forward so that if she cannot apply for maybe a fellowship, maybe she's done it already, but she's still connected with that opportunity, that she is passing it on to the next person. So we call that paying it forward. But for example, Emmana, how did you get involved in the UN? Because I think that is one of the areas we have to teach our people. We have to teach how to go, how to make yourself available, how to position yourself so that when these opportunities are available, you are right there, right? You're right there, you're prepared, and you're able to grab that opportunity. So how did you get involved in the UN, Emmana?
Well, Simone, I could just put it that way. There's a scene from a movie I like, and I think it's Medea, and it says, "All my life I had to fight." And when you were saying that, that's what came to my mind. That's to show you, it's
Yep.
not. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the work. You have to be involved. It's not something that is. I wouldn't say that, because some people are lucky. There are some lucky people. There are some
Yes.
lucky
Most of us
people
are not.
who know,
Most of us are not.
yeah, who know the right people and
Mhm.
who get those opportunities in their lap because you just have the right connections. But for some of us, we have to fight our way through, and it's a matter of networking, it's a matter of being involved, it's a matter of implementing tangible projects that people can see that, okay, you're making a difference. Because I had to go through an interview process, I had to go through an application process, A lot of these
Mhm.
things you have to apply and you have to go through the tedious process of interviews. There have been times where I've been rejected for
We all
certain
have.
fellows. So there's been a lot of rejections. There's been more
Mhm.
rejections than like appointments, to be
Yeah,
quite
and
honest.
it speaks to the question of being resilient, right?
Yes, on my end, there's been a lot of rejections.
But you keep
So it's
going.
but yeah, it's just a matter of keep going. You have to be resilient, and I would say that a lot of our young people they give up. They give up too easy. They give up too easy, and that's just me speaking from a person who I like to be on ground and I like to speak to people. I'm an open book. Anybody can come up to me and have a conversation. They may not be my friend, like a close friend or anything like that, but anybody can come up to me and have a deep enough conversation where we speak for hours and hours and they open up to me and they tell me whatever that their plight is and I'm able to give them my advice. And a lot of our young people after the slightest inconvenience
Hmm.
that's it for for them, and they just
Very true.
don't have the energy to push on. It is a matter of being resilient and
Yeah.
basically hardening your back,
Hmm.
broadening your back, like you like to say it in colloquial terms. You have to broaden your back a bit, or even better, tie your waist.
Hmm.
You have to tie your waist
Absolutely. Yeah,
because the
and that begs
rejection
the
is going to
question.
come.
That begs the question, Whitney, how do we teach that resilience? How do we have to go to the phones, but this is such an engaging conversation. I just want to keep going. So how do we teach that resilience? And I think one of the easy ways, if you ask me, in terms of how these opportunities can potentially come to you, is joining you on the ground, the work that you're doing, Whitney, because that way you're exposed to the to
Yes,
those who are doing the work.
I agree. I remember the first session that I had before I left home, and that same discussion came about, finding the opportunities to be involved in this space. And like Emmana said, to some people, it falls into your lap. It comes more easily to some people if
Mhm.
you have an established network.
Right.
Some others, they might get rejected in an application and might not apply again. It does come down to being passionate about what you do, what you want to do, and being determined to pull through, to keep applying. And I told him it's not that difficult.
Mhm.
It's as simple as following an opportunity page on Instagram, which is what
Right.
I do, which is where I get most of the opportunities I apply to. I follow pages such as Opportunities for Youth. There is opportunities for Caribbean youth specifically, and almost daily there are posts about job opportunities, internship opportunities, fellowship opportunities. There are pages dedicated to opportunities in the climate space. So I think it is a matter of not just knowing what we want to do and having the passion to do it, but also having the dedication to go out there and find something as simple as an Instagram page and following it and keeping up keeping up to it. Because I have even messaged these opportunity pages and I have said, "Hi, I am interested in climate justice. Do you have any opportunities that available in the coming months that will align with what I do?" So something as simple as that to keep updated. Again, that is where I find most of my fellowships. I find something in the climate space, I share it immediately to whoever is available, whoever sees it, to broaden the reach of the post. So somebody else might see they could apply. So something as simple as that. I think it comes down to taking
Yeah.
initiative and to go out there. As recent as yesterday at work, I googled social justice fellowships 2025. So it's these little things,
Mhm.
that would find you these opportunities. And again, having a network, connecting with people, like-minded young people who are in the climate space, who are in it doesn't even have to be the climate space, whatever it is that you're passionate about. So
Mhm.
like Emmana, for example, if I find something on Instagram, I would send it to Emmana would send it to me. So it's those things. It's
Mhm.
not as
Yeah,
daunting or as
Yeah.
challenging as it may seem to be in
Yeah.
yeah.
these big spaces.
I feel with the stuff though. So those say it's not as daunting or challenging. It is, even when like you see in two different perspectives.
Yes,
Even doing the
Yes,
and
application,
that's
even
fair.
doing the application can be tedious sometimes because you might go get an application and then you have to record a 5 minute video of yourself speaking about what you're
absolutely,
passionate about.
absolutely,
And not
absolutely. I don't
everybody
mean to say,
can do that.
Yeah,
I don't
and
mean
that
And
to
is
then,
say,
where
I don't mean to say it's not
that is where
challenging.
the support of the community comes in, right?
yes,
So
Yes,
you and
yes,
Whitney can support yourself, and like you just mentioned, Whitney, that is in every field, because now I'm pushing myself to do more in the space of like wellness coaching, and that is what I'm having to do. I'm a natural introvert, so being outspoken and interacting with people is just not my thing, but I'm realizing that that is what it takes. So for example, I went to an event on Saturday and I had to get out of my comfort zone to approach people and say, this is what I'm doing and I'm looking for opportunities. So the onus is on you. The onus is on you. Nothing is going to simply come to you. And I'm speaking to our young people and anyone who's stuck at this point. The onus is on you. This is the world of the internet. It's not even back in the day where you had to go look for a newspaper, find a library. Information is at your fingertips. So do like Whitney just recommended. Just Google what you are interested in.
not only
Look
that,
for,
I will also add Simone. I will also
yeah,
add even easier. Right now we have AI, ChatGPT. For a lot of the
yes.
exactly.
opportunities, I actually just go on ChatGPT and they send me a list. However, for me, I
Hmm.
utilize LinkedIn.
That is
I am
LinkedIn.
very
an
LinkedIn is a
amazing
very,
choice.
very good platform.
Yes,
It's an amazing platform. In fact,
right.
about 80% of my internships and my jobs came from LinkedIn.
Yep, and that is
So
another
I
area I started to explore as well. So we're
yeah,
throwing out a lot of ideas, and I hope that don't forget. Once the program is over, you can always catch the replay. So I'm really calling out because I know a lot of our young people, unfortunately, they're not going to sit for 2 hours and listen to a program like this. But I'm hoping that the adults in their life, they're taking notes and they're making notes, and they're going to catch the replay of this program so that they can advise their youth, because we're not just speaking about the climate justice area. We're speaking about life in general. And look at how these two young ladies are putting themselves out there. They're giving us the reality that it can be challenging, but it's not impossible. But ladies, we have to take a pause. I'm going to get in trouble if we don't go over to the studio to invite our caller. So let's go over to you. And then when we come back, guys, we're going to talk about COP29. So you can tell us all about what that was all about.
Roots Connection and Q. We're taking your calls. The numbers are as follow: 449 3095, 449 3096, 449 3097, 616 4257. Those are all local numbers. The overseas number 305 432 9624. Let me run those numbers one more time: 449 3095, 449 3096, 449 3097, 616 4257, 305 432 9624. And back to you, Simon.
Yes, thank you so much. So let's see who's on the Facebook Live. My mom, Medina Sanos, says good night. D.A. Rose, hi, mom, right in the living room behind me. Jackie Joseph, very interesting. Petrol Labadie, hi, Mrs. Labadie, great to see you. Such an interesting program. We really hope that our young people are listening. So impressed with the two young ladies. Well done, Dr. Matthew. Thank you, Mrs. Labadie. Always great to see you. And then we have Jackie, who says, very knowledgeable young ladies. Congratulations to them. Let's see what else she says. Would love to meet with the Roseau Valley youth to ask them or find out about, I guess that means their involvement in such an avenue. I'm trying to understand what you're saying, Jackie. Slight typo, yes. I hope I got it right. And she says she's also interested in being a wellness coach. You can email me. I'll provide my email address at the end of the program. And then Petrol Abadi says, definitely gonna pass it on. Great information. Josephine Dublin, hi, Mrs. Dublin. Oh, wonderful to see you on the program, my former teacher. She says, congratulations to these young ladies. Do proud of you. I think she meant I'm proud of you. So I think she's Very proud of you guys, and I hope that you're feeling encouraged by all the wonderful comments that are coming in. But let's continue with the conversation. So tell us, what is COP29? So we're number 29, but first of all, what does COP mean? So any one of you can feel free to jump in.
I was gonna let the UNYAG take this one, but the UNFCCC is the United Nations Conference on Climate Change, Conference of the Parties. Emmana?
Conference of Parties.
Confirmed.
You're going good. You're going good.
Confirmed. Yes. So it is a conference that is held annually at a selected countries, very similar to the Olympics, Emmana. Yes.
Mhm.
Every year it's in a different country. COP30 would be in Brazil. Hopefully, Emmana and I will be in attendance doing what we love to do. But COP29 was in Azerbaijan, in Baku, Azerbaijan in November, and it ran from the 11th to the 22nd of November. I could be corrected, Emmana. Those were the dates.
Yes.
Right. So that is essentially the process. So there is a convening of stakeholders, whether it is government, local communities, civil organizations, indigenous peoples, for example, which I followed. So yeah, it is a convening of all of these groups, all of these stakeholders to find a way forward to advancing climate sustainable living and sustainable development in regards to climate change.
Mm-hmm. And just some of the sessions you maybe attended, how many days was it? What was the experience like, Emmana?
So for me, so Whitney and I would have had different roles at COP. So I went to COP as a negotiator. So I was part of Dominica's negotiating team as a youth negotiator. This was the first time for me. It was a challenging road to follow because that aspect of COP in terms of the negotiating is highly political and it's highly legal because you have all countries coming together to basically make their stance on what they deem as the right way to approach this whole global climate change phenomenon. So you have different
So
groupings
what
of
is the
words.
right approach? Okay.
Yes, what is the right approach? So last year we had the COP being termed as the finance COP, and I followed climate finance. Actually, I was the only negotiator in the room for Dominica for climate finance, and it was very daunting because you have all of these experienced negotiators from the different countries, and a lot of the youth negotiators would have been shadowing them. So you had all, but Dominica's negotiating team is quite small compared. We don't have a lot of negotiators or experienced negotiators. And so we're now building up a delegation, and it was quite daunting because you saw a lot of political soft power being utilized. And anybody who has done international relations or even courses on negotiations, you know that there are political devices that are used during negotiations. So it was kind of a matter of the different theories I had learned from my studies playing out themselves right in front of my eyes in real time and seeing how they go. And for me, was it was an eye-opening exercise. I'll call it an exercise because it was like a learning curve on my part. You saw the different players and you saw their strategies. Strategy is very important in that. You saw how legal knowledge, especially in terms of international laws, and how basically just to know what you are reading into, how is that important. Language, the importance of language, in terms of negotiating. I didn't spend a lot of time on the side events. I probably went to one. I went to COP at 8 a.m. and I left there at 10 p.m. sometimes, 11 p.m. at times.
I
Because
can
then
attest to that.
yeah, Whitney came with me sometimes in the room to help me write notes to follow through
So where?
and some,
So maybe I missed it, but where was it, and how many days was it?
It
So
was
it was
in
in
Baku, Azerbaijan for
Azerbaijan,
2 weeks.
two
Wow.
weeks. So you have
Impressive.
2 weeks and you have a lot being put forward. You have text being read and basically read over and over, and everybody, every single person in that room has to agree on that text. So
Yeah,
that's where
and
the
it also
negotiation
begs the
part comes
question
in.
because again, going back to how do we get opportunities? So, how did you get an opportunity to attend COP29? Did you have to apply? Was it through an organization that you're involved in? Because I mean, that is an impressive opportunity to be able to travel and stay for 2 weeks. So, how did you land that opportunity?
So I landed that opportunity. There's a program called the Climate Youth Negotiators Academy, and the government of Dominica, the Ministry of Environment, has an MOU with that program, and they have partnered with the CYN to get persons onto that program. So that was, I think, last year was our first partnership in that, and we have a partnership on different conferences where we have persons from Dominica. We basically get young people from Dominica to attend these meetings, and that was in terms of us basically just creating a partnership with each other. Of course, we had to approach the ministry and let them know the work that we're doing and kind of convince them how important it is to engage
Mhm.
us, because we are a fairly new NGO. We hadn't been registered at the time and we were in the registration process. So it was a very long, winding road to establish that connection. And where we started, like I said, one of the aims was to get get young people to be part of the high level conversations such as COP. And I also, and we recognize that, we have a delegation to build. We need negotiators in Dominica. We need trained negotiators in Dominica. When you look at the other Caribbean islands, you have negotiators that have been there for 20 years. Since the beginning of COP, they have been there,
Right,
and
and
they
and
are.
just remind us again what the negotiators do, because I don't want us to get lost in the conversation. So, what do the negotiators do again?
So negotiators, like any international conference for negotiating, or any negotiating space, trade, climate change, anything, is basically you have a text. You have a text. That's where the legal aspect comes in. It, you have a text, and that text is legally binding, because that text puts out the provisions for climate action from
Right,
countries,
right.
the directions for countries for climate action for the next couple of years.
Okay,
So
excellent.
all countries have to agree on that text, because that text is legally binding. So then you have a group of people in a room full of from represented from different parts of the world coming together and basically just stating that, in short, an
The
and shouldn't be
direction.
there. It shouldn't be an and there. I think this word is not very clear. There's not enough clarity there, and it's a back and forth between everyone in the room. And countries are put into subgroups to make it easier. And we go into our subgroups, we plan, we strategize, and we basically just represent our countries as negotiators, and um, to get what we want to see done. Like, for instance, the small island developing states, our goal was to have $1 trillion dollars in climate financing. We got only 300 billion, and we had to accept the 300 billion. It's not what we were aiming for, but it was higher than what was put aside before. So that is just some of the things that we had to do. And like I said, there are various sectors, there are various tracks in negotiations. I follow the climate finance track, but there's agriculture, there's just transition, there is gender, there's a number there's health, there's health also, there's adaptation, there's loss and damage. So there are a number of climatic themes that persons have to negotiate and just have to agree on text, and that is where the negotiations comes in, to agree on legal text.
Yeah, and you answered the next question I was about to ask. And Whitney, I want to come to you to find out how you got invited, if it was through the same initiative. But you just answered a question I had as well, Emmana, because it sounds like this is very important because they're tangible outcomes that comes with COP29. So, we're having this conversation. I'm sure some people know about what COP is and many people don't. So we're just making sure everybody's fully aware of the work that you're involved in. So congratulations. So Whitney, how did you get the opportunity? Also, what was your experience? And was it just the two of you representing Dominica?
So to start, I went as a youth delegate with Dominica, and the project is, I would have mentioned it before, Island Innovations Caribbean Climate Justice Leaders Academy. So that is a program I would have applied for earlier in 2024 and would have gotten accepted into. It is a training program, a capacity building program where you are educated on what the UNFCCC is, the UNFCCC process is. It is about climate advocacy, climate finance, just these spaces, like Emmana would have mentioned, that the themes that are present at COP. So it is a training program about that. And at the end of the program, if you had completed all of your assignments, if you had completed your attendance, participated actively in the program, then you would have the opportunity to be selected as a delegate of the program with a fully funded opportunity to attend COP29. So that is how I got through. I also had the opportunity through the 2024 CVF V20 Fellowship, quite similar, but it is more based on the technicalities of COP. I would say, a much more challenging program, and you get to find out about articles such as Article 6. You get to find out about climate policies, the frameworks in place for the UNFCCC for climate change, these kind of things, climate science. So it was a much more challenging program, and it's quite similarly in terms of assignments. You complete all of your assignments, you attend all your classes, all your sessions, you participate in the program, and then you have the opportunity to be interviewed to get a position, a fully funded position, to attend COP29. So I had both of these opportunities, and I decided to go with Island Innovation as I felt it would have been more suited to me to be with a group of Caribbean individuals. We would have that connection and would be able to relate better to our shared challenges within the region. So I decided to go with Island Innovation, and they facilitated me getting a badge from the UNFCCC focal point from Dominica. That would have been, is Mr. Edgar Hunter and the Ministry of Environment, and I am so very grateful still that they have been very accommodating, very supporting in all of my initiatives. So again, publicly saying thank you for the support and the encouragement. So that is how I came into the climate space. And to mention the CVF again, and me being a part of the 2025 fellowship, that also affords me the ability and the opportunity to attend not only COP30 in Brazil, but also the Bonn SB60 in Bonn, Germany in June, I believe. That is a session that precedes COP, whichever COP it is, COP30, COP29. So I have that opportunity as well through these programs, and that is how I came into the climate space. I followed local communities and indigenous peoples. That is the thematic area that I was most involved in. I also followed climate action for climate empowerment. And I believe I also, not very in-depth, but I also followed along with non-economic losses and damages, which is the basis of the current project. So these were the areas that I was most involved with, and I did sessions, speaking sessions. We had a few presentations to do at COP. So as Emmana was on the other side of negotiations, I would have not gotten that training, and I was not equipped to be in the space yet. And that is more training that is offered to me by the CVF this year to be able to be in the space and to be knowledgeable and equipped with the training necessary to represent my country. But I was more on the green zone. So at the UNFCCC COP, there are two zones. There's the blue zone and the green zone. In the blue zone, again, Imana, correct me if I'm wrong, the blue zone is where you have all the negotiations and the very serious things happening, the things that impact our future. That is where the negotiations happen, the long hours and all the readings. That's where it happens. In the blue zone, you also have booths for countries, organizations where they portray things from their country. They work on climate change. They have discussions on different intersections of climate change. So it is a very large space where you really have the opportunity to learn from so many different countries and to really absorb as many perspectives as possible, whether it aligns with yours or it doesn't. You get exposed exposed to that. And the green zone is more relaxed. It is an exhibition sort of style, and you get the opportunity to look at different booths to see what each country is presenting at COP 29 or COP 30, whatever COP it is, to see what they are bringing to the COP, what they are proposing in terms of climate change. And you get the opportunity to voice your opinions, to voice your experience, to meet other people in those spaces. I would have done some panel discussions on intersectionality, on intergenerational knowledge sharing, on unity building amongst Caribbean youth. So those were some of the activities that I did at COP. And I was also very honored to be shadowing our young negotiator, Emmana, at some of her negotiations.
Yeah, and again, the opportunity for even more networking, the opportunity
Absolutely.
for even more networking, building the network, and potentially getting more opportunities. So I always like to say, start where you are, do what you can, use what you have. Because that is exactly what the two of you did. You started on the journey, and now you're just continuing to advance. So I'm really happy with the comments I'm seeing on the Facebook Live. Mrs. Labadie says, the real meaning of resilience. Well done, ladies. Jackie, amazing work. Our rising stars. So we have more to discuss, but I just want to take a moment right now and just tap in to how the two of you are feeling, to have now represented Dominica on a worldwide stage, and the potential and the other opportunities that are coming your way. How do you feel?
For me, it's a work in progress. The more I'm into it, the more work I see we have to do.
Yes.
The more work I see that needs to be done.
Mhm.
Um, and it's even at a deeper level. We need to shift some of our focus and look at things at a holistic level.
Mhm.
Dominica is just one dot of an island in the world. It's just a small part of it. And at COP would have been like a culture shock for me. And it's not only me, but I feel every single person, no matter what level they're working at, they have like negotiators that have been in this work for many years, and probably COP was their first climate conference, and they were at a culture shock. Wouldn't have been the first negotiation space I was in. The first negotiation space I was in was at the World Trade Organization's during a study tour. That was that's a program held by the University of the West Indies Cable Campus, Sheridan Frankfurt Center for Trade, International Trade Policy. So I have been in that space already, and at COP, it's just a different level of different cultures and different representations. There you have different groups, you have different countries. So when we go out there, especially to represent our our island. We are not just representing ourselves, but we are representing different communities. And we have to think about the different economic and social sections of our society and how they are or how they coincide with other socio-economic sections of the global society. And even when we're doing projects and when we're doing initiatives in the country, I feel that that's what we have to think about. Yes, how is it relevant in our country, but how is this relevant in the world? How can this prepare our people to stand out in a very competitive world? So there are different levels to it, and every single time that I go there and I represent Dominica in one capacity or the other, like I said, I've been there in different capacities. One for academic, one was fully academic, and I had the chance um to shadow the OECS office at the WTO in Switzerland and see the work that they're doing. And these people are putting out a lot of work out there. So it's not something that we should take for granted at all, because the people that are going out there to speak on our behalf, they are doing a lot of work. They're putting a lot of work. Yes, it takes a lot of years to reach where they are, but at the same time, it also takes a certain level of work ethic. And
Mhm.
I am happy that I have been able to have some of them currently as some my mentors that
Yes.
guide me also throughout this journey. And that's another way that I get opportunities is through these people being in contact with me and speaking to me and basically guiding me. And one of the reasons why they are able to guide me is because I'm open to them guiding me. So that's another message for our young people. You need to be
Mhm.
open to constructive criticism, because you're not going to do things the right way all the time. You are going to make mistakes. So you need to take in whenever somebody tells you that you're doing something wrong, that you're doing it wrong. A lot of these things are a learning curve, especially now in the capacity that me and Wendy Whitney, sorry, are working. We are Whitney are working. It's a learning curve for us. We are just prepping ourselves for later on in life. And believe it or not, but I am not going to be a youth any sometime soon, down the line. I'm not 40 years yet, but very, very close to the age. So we're
Wait
just
till you hit
prepping ourselves.
50.
But what I would say is that we need something in place for succession planning, especially in our country.
Yes.
We have a very small country. So, and we, brain drain is an issue in our country currently, and a lot of our talent is going out and they're not looking back in. We need to look for ways to connect them, even if they go out, because we cannot have opportunities for everybody. That's just the realistic environment that we're in. We cannot give everyone opportunities, but we need to find ways to connect these people back home and to see how we can still utilize their human resource. And it's a win-win situation. It's a win-win for us as a country, and it's a win-win for them. So we need to be creative to find ways. So yes, for me, we have a lot of work to be done, and I am always open to engage the relevant stakeholders in terms of what is needed to be done. That as my first year at COP, I'm very outspoken when it comes to these things. I would have given a very, very thorough report on my experience at COP, back to the ministry and the UNFCCC focal point office. And like I said, I'm very happy with the way that they've been treating us. They've given us an open space to basically share our concerns, share our ideas, and be creative in the space. In the words of the senior technical advisor, he always said he's looking to motivate young people. He's not there because he's not going to be there for a long time either.
Mhm.
When it's time to retire, it's time to retire, but he wants his work to go on. So, and I shared that same sentiment. After I'm after I've left that youth zone, I want my work to continue. And it's just like the other day, I went on the UE page, and I would have seen an initiative that I launched during my tenure on the UE deal, still going on.
Wow.
Initiatives actually, and
Wow.
to me, that made me feel happy
Yes.
because I created plans and I created initiatives that were sustainable, and I ensured that it remained sustainable because I didn't just keep or hold everything to myself.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
made sure that
That's
the
what it's all
next
about.
person, yeah, the next person after me, they were engaged and they saw the importance. You don't really have to go out and initiate more new initiatives when the ones that are there are working. Yes, you can introduce new
Build on
initiatives
it.
that have staff, but you build on it, build on a
Right.
platform that is there. And that is what I'm just doing currently. I'm just creating a platform that persons can build on and they can add value to in the future.
Excellent, excellent. And I'm telling you, it's a lot of work, but I think everyone listening to this program and viewing this program, we are confident that we have the right people in the right positions to take this to where we need to go. So, Whitney, how do you feel about your journey so far? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I just realized. I am just very grateful to have the support system that I do, to be surrounded by people like Emmana, like
Mhm.
Wendy, to be surrounded by people who are motivated to do the work, whether it is they end up doing it on their own or they have to start on their own, to be around people who have a vision and who have a plan for sustainability and longevity within our communities, like Imana would have mentioned. So right now, I just feel so grateful for the people around me, for people like you who offer us such a platform to be able to share our opinions and to speak on the things that we're doing and to reach other young individuals. So that is how I'm feeling right now. And to be honest, it is it is challenging
Mhm.
sometimes. It could be scary sometimes when you get put in a new position and you have to challenge yourself. For example, I will be attending the escazú agreement, the third forum on human rights defenders in environment in St. Kitts, Bastair. That would be in 2 weeks, and that's an opportunity I got through the CYE, and I was nominated and I got selected. I have not been in that space before. I have been interested in human rights. I have done my research on human rights. It's something I am passionate about, but I have not been in that space. So it gets challenging sometimes. The workload, as Imana was speaking about, sometimes it looks a little overwhelming
Mhm.
because you are not just representing yourself, as she said, you're representing your entire country. At the moment, I believe I am the only one from the country. I'm waiting on the Ministry of Environment, as they know that I will be attending, so that I could find the contact, the lead point for the Human Rights Forum in St. Kitts, so that we could liaise on how best we're going to approach the forum and how best to represent our country. So it's these little things in these spaces, equipping myself to be able to represent my country to the best of my ability, to put our best foot forward. Again, it is not just me in this space. When I step into that space, I know that I hold a responsibility. There's a very big responsibility when you are speaking on behalf of people. You have to get it right, and you have to ensure that you represent them, you represent their needs, and you speak on their challenges as accurately as possible. So it can be challenging at times, but there is work to be done,
Mhm.
and we have said and we have proven that we are up to the task. So it's just a matter of keeping on, keep pushing, having conversations with
Yeah.
like-minded individuals
Absolutely. And I
to
really
sharpen each other.
right, iron
Yeah.
sharpeneth iron, iron sharpeneth iron. And I really liked what Emmana said about creating the platform, about succession planning, about, I can tell that you guys are visionaries. Even, I don't want to say even at your age because that is such an insult, but looking at the two of you, I can tell that you're visionaries because no one probably told you about the importance of succession planning. A lot of young folks, they're thinking about what is the opportunities for me, but they're not necessarily thinking about, let me build this in a way so that I'm providing a platform, I'm providing a pathway for those who will come after me. So thank you for being such important role models. But I don't want the time to run out on us before we kind of just broaden the conversation a little bit. And I wrote down this question because I thought it was so important to ask you. So I wrote down, climate is such a loaded word. So when we speak of climate, we speak about the environment, social, political, etc. We can see that you two are thriving in your current climate of this challenging world. But as advocates, what can you tell us about the world environment for you and your peers? So your experience in this very tumultuous world that we live in. What can you tell us about the opportunities, the challenges you are experiencing, and your advice for adults and your peers who are not doing as well navigating this challenging world that we live in? So the idea is we can see that the two of you are thriving despite the tumultuous world that we're living in right now. But we know for a lot of young people and adults, they are not doing as well navigating this very challenging time. So what would be your advice to everyone who's listening at this point?
For me, I would say be honest with yourself. I would take the opportunity to shed light on mental health and the role that it plays when navigating through the world's tumultuous climate, as you rightfully said. You need to take the time out to learn yourself. Learn yourself. I think if you don't know yourself in this world, you will get lost.
Yep.
You need to know yourself first because before you can find other places and find other things to do. Learn yourself. Learn yourself. Know what your strengths are. And don't be too hard on yourself about your weaknesses. Because we have strengths, we have weaknesses. You can go throughout your academic journey and get your PhD. You will still have weaknesses. You wouldn't know it all. It's impossible for you to know it all in the world. And be okay without knowing it all. I think when you're okay without knowing it all and just okay in terms of being confident in yourself about what you know and being open to learn, I feel that's the formula of moving forward. Because sometimes life can really get to you. There are a lot of things that young people are dealing with. There are a lot of things that adults are dealing with, you know. But it'll be dismissive for me to say, well, that's just life. You have to move on, let go and move on, which is said a lot to young people, especially by the older generation. Well, that's life. You have to do what you have to do. Move on. No, take the time out to get to know yourself and find people to speak to. Find people to speak to. Um, if you can afford it, go to therapy. If you cannot afford therapy, I wouldn't say create a circle of trust because that even that is difficult. But at least find somebody. If somebody is willing to give you an ear, be willing to let them have that ear because it may just be something that will benefit you in the long run. It may just be that one outlet that you needed to put you back on track. Be open to learn. Oh gosh, I keep stressing that for the entire program. Be open to learn.
It's
Sometimes as
true.
young people, we think we know it all and we get hard headed. But be open. That is what is going to take you to. into places. Be open to learn. If
Mhm.
someone pulls you aside and tells you that you are going on the wrong path, think about it. Why are they telling me that? They must be telling me that because I'm doing something wrong. So what am I doing wrong, and what do I need to change to be able to go on the right path? If somebody who's dear to me can be telling me that I'm going on the right path, what am I doing wrong? And there are certain times in life there comes a time in life where you have to let go of old habits, and you have to realize the time and space that you're in, and you have to get back into knowing yourself and being honest with yourself. Look at look at how the world is operating around you and move accordingly with it. Because if you don't,
Yes,
like I
thank
said,
you.
you will lose yourself.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Emmana. Whitney, your thoughts? And be prepared. I'm going to ask you for your contact information for anyone who wants to reach out to you at the end of the program. Whitney, your thoughts?
Yes. Would you mind repeating your question, please?
Yes. So the idea was, it looks like the two of you are. It doesn't look like it. The two of you are thriving in the current environment, despite the world being a very tumultuous place. But unfortunately, many of our young people and people in general are not doing as well. So, what is your advice for those of us who might be struggling trying to navigate this very tumultuous world that we live in right now?
Thank you. Um, I want to start with some honesty. I am not exactly comfortable with the phrasing of the question, as
Okay.
I feel it somewhat puts us on this pedestal, like this achievement that you need to get to, and I don't think that is fair to other
Okay.
people who might be listening. We all have our different paths. We achieve different milestones at different times.
Mhm.
So I don't feel comfortable with that. We will get to where we need to get to when the time is right for us, individually. And again, the world is large. There are different things you could get involved in, and my niche might be might not be your niche,
Mhm.
and I might be able to get there at a faster pace because again I have the connections.
Right.
It's an easier space to get into, given how climate change is such a hot topic right now, how climate justice is the prevailing issue in society. So I think it's a very open space at the moment. So if somebody who is not in that space is not interested in that space, to put us in that light
Well,
where
we
we
were
have
talking more
the
in
level.
we were more
No,
talking
I
in
understand.
general
I
terms. So
understand.
anybody who's facing like challenges right now,
I
so not
understand. I
necessarily
just
in the
felt it was
climate space,
important. I just felt it was important to lay it out there.
right?
So yes, I would just like to add to everything that Emmana had just said, and everything, it resonates with me. I think she hit the nail straight on the head
I
with
agree.
looking out for yourself, to ensuring that you are in the right space, and that is exactly the reason why I took a sabbatical when I came to UE in 2021, to find myself, to find what I'm passionate about, to find what makes me me, to find my voice. So it took me about 3 years. Um, and it is only now that I am being really active again in the space. Back to what I said at the beginning, finding yourself, finding your path, your pace, all of these things are very important. So knowing yourself, taking the time off to internalize your thoughts, your feelings, your surroundings, and how that affects you, the change that you would want to make. Uh, so yes,
Yeah,
Emmana hit it straight on the head.
yeah,
So
absolutely. You both did very well. And the importance of finding your passion, because I think creates a driving force when you found your passion, because I think it was Oprah that says, if you follow your passion, you will never work a day in your life. So the importance of finding that passion and finding that purpose. But as we wind down this evening, you can go ahead and share your final thoughts and your contact information. But we also want to know, what does the future look like for you? Where are you going? I always say life is not a destination, it's a journey. But where are you going on this journey that you're on right now? So, Emmana, let's come to you and let's get some contact information that I can post for in case you want anyone to get in touch. If you don't want anyone to get in touch with you, that's fine as well. But what's
Absolutely
next for
not.
you?
No, that is
No,
not why we're
like
in
I
this
said,
space.
Go ahead.
like I said, I'm open book. I'm an open, I'm approachable. You can always follow me or add me as a friend on Facebook. You can also get in contact with me via my for professional uses purposes. I utilize LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can find me
Oh, I think you're breaking up a little bit. Let's give her a minute.
yeah, well, exactly.
Hold on. Let's see if she can come back on. Yeah,
Can
you
you
were
hear me
giving
now?
us your yes, you're giving us your contact. So LinkedIn, what are you on LinkedIn?
Imana
Are you
Jeffers.
so you're just
Imana Jeffers, my name. Name
EMMANAGEFFREYS.
ANA Jeffers. JEFFERS.
Right. So again, Emmana, EMMANA, Jeffreys, JEFFREYS. So that's on LinkedIn. Is that your name on Facebook as well?
ERS. Yes, so JEFFERS. Also on Facebook, Imana Jeffers. Imana Jeffers right through. You
Jeffers.
can search it up and you'll find me on these social media platforms. My email is imanajeffers at hotmail.com. So you can contact me via that email. Also, feel free to contact CYEN directly at CYEN Dominica at gmail.com. Of course, we're always looking for supports. We have a few activities coming up, including a beach cleanup project that's with the Royal Commonwealth Society um, during their Relay Baton um, proceedings in Dominica the Relay Baton week in Dominica. So we have a few joint projects with the Olympic Committee. We have a plastic pollution cleanup on the beach. So look out for that. It will be coming up soon. So if you want to just engage us, you can contact us at cyn@gmail.com. Of course, I would like to thank you for having me here on this program. Sometimes I like to be under the radar, just doing work, putting in the work on ground, but it's always nice to be seen and also to be given the chance to be heard. So thank you for this and thank you for tonight. I enjoyed myself on the program. I think it was a very great conversation. Probably I didn't say everything that I had to say, but it was still
There's
great.
always the
And the
next time.
time
You
was
guys will
enough
just
to
keep
say
coming
everything that I
back.
had to say. But yeah, yeah, just doing what I have to do, trying to build up my career because I still have a
Yes.
profession to build this, which I'm very new, very green in there. Newly graduated, just graduated in 2023. So I'm spending the time to build on my career and continuing my work. I do have a project coming up, and I feel you would need to have me on the program a second time for that project because that project is very important to
Open
the development of
invitation to the
Dominica. I
lovely
believe
young
so.
ladies. Open invitation. You have my number.
Yes, so yes, I do. So that's just on the agenda for me next. But otherwise, just keep going
Yes.
at God's will, because anything can happen. So just to continue what I'm doing at God's will and with the right timing, I believe that everything that I want to fall in place will fall in place. But for now, it's just continue on my career path, continue to build up myself professionally, and continue to learn.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Imana, for being here. And if you missed her email address, it is going to be EMMANA, Imana Jeffers, JEFFERS at hotmail.com, right?
Yes, please.
Yes, let me delete that comment. I put the wrong thing. So at hotmail.com. So, Whitney, over to you. What does the future look like for you?
Oh, well, my priority right now is the foundation and the work that we're doing. So the project is going to be concluded soon, and we hope in the very near future to have a national project that again focuses on the non-economic losses and damages of climate change on our entire country, on our culture, on our heritage, to see how climate change impacts us in a way that is not the economic um, levels that we have, that we know of. And so that is the work moving forward. In the further future, we plan to take it on a regional level to address issues in terms of social justice, climate justice, the intersection of social and climate justice, and human rights, indigenous rights. So that is what is in my future. That would be my priority moving forward, to ensuring that we empower the voices of all individuals impacted by social and climate injustices in our region, in our communities, in our lives. That is what it is for me. Personally, I am preparing, studying, doing a lot of reading, a lot of research for next week. Again, I will be in St. Kitts representing my country and CYEN at the third Forum of Human Rights Defenders in Environmental Matters. I think it's a very, very important session, and especially for myself as a climate advocate and for other fellows like Emmana, it is a very important moment. So I am trying my best to prepare myself so that I could represent my country to the best of my abilities. I am also preparing for the Bonn Germany SB60 and COP30 in Brazil. We do have big plans for COP30 in Brazil. Being in our backyard, I think it is very important to have a very strong Caribbean indigenous youth community, or just indigenous community, so that we can go forth at COP30 and have a very powerful statement to stand in solidarity with each other. Hopefully by that time we would have had shared our knowledge and our practices with each other, so that we could be a united Caribbean indigenous peoples.
Mm-hmm. And is there any contact information you'd like to provide?
Yes. So I can be contacted at Whitney Mélinard at outlook.com.
Okay, I'm going to spell it out in a minute, at outlook.com. So let's spell it out. So if you're listening on the radio and you're not seeing what we're posting on Facebook and YouTube, it's Whitney, Whitney, Mélinard, MELI. I have to look, LINARD. Correct me if I'm going wrong. At outlook.com. All right.
Yes, for the youth, you can always reach out to me on Instagram at Whitney Mélinard. That is my user handle. I will be more active on there than Facebook, for example, or LinkedIn. It is also Whitney Mélinard. If you are interested in the climate space, do not hesitate to reach out. Again, the climate space, it is very broad. There are lots of themes and avenues that you could be interested in, whether it's specific to the Caribbean region or something that you have read upon and you found interesting. Just reach out to me. Let me know what avenue that you are interested in, whether it's just climate change in general, and I will be more than willing to direct you to whoever it is that I believe is adequate and has the knowledge or the experience to bring you into the climate space. Whether it is providing you with information, with access to opportunities, I will be more than willing to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Whitney. Thank you, Emmana. Thank you for an excellent presentation. We explored so many topics this evening. And of course, everyone knows my email address in case you just didn't get the information we talked about. You can always reach me at pushpast10@gmail.com, pushpast10@gmail.com. And thank you. Thank you for everyone who continues to reach out to me to let me know their feelings about the program and to let us know some topics we might be interested in exploring. So if you joined us late, we were talking about the how our youth are leading the way with empowering our communities to be more resilient in an ever-changing world. And I think both Whitney and Emmana did a brilliant job in terms of addressing that. And we can't wait to have them with us again. This has been their second appearance. So we want to continue to track their progress. We know already that they are leaders and they're going to continue to lead, and they're going to continue to do impactful work in this world. So we look forward to engaging with them again. Thank you to our listening audience, our Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Folks, thank you for being here with us. Lambi, Showin, Mr. G, thank you to the Q95 FM radio. We look forward to being in your company again in the next 2 weeks as we continue this journey of harnessing the power of technology, radio, social media, podcasts, emerging technologies, I like to say, as we continue to leverage the skills and expertise of our brothers and sisters around the world for the benefit of us all. So again, don't forget to follow and like Push Past 10 and Q95 FM radio on Facebook and YouTube for all the regular updates. For all everything that is emerging, especially we see the fight for electoral reform. I think I'm just been reliably informed that Johnson Boston has just been picked up by the police officers. So while we're having this program, my WhatsApp is going crazy because everyone is reaching out to give me the updates. So we have to keep on top of everything that is going on in Dominica, and we have to continue to pray for our country. And we are happy to see that we had a radiothon earlier today at 1 p.m. and $30,000 was raised for the defense of those who were protesting on Wednesday. So like Emmana said, we have a lot of work to do in every area in our lives in Dominica, but I think we are putting the pieces together. We have the right people, so we have to continue to do the work for the benefit of Dominica, the Caribbean region, and our people at home and abroad. So with that, I am Simone Matthew. It is always wonderful to be in your company for another episode of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. So have yourself a restful evening, a productive rest of the week, and good night. So ladies, say bye-bye, and I hope to see you guys in the not too distant future as we continue to keep track of your work. Have a good night.
Thank you for having us again.
You're welcome. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Roots Connections on Q, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. every other Wednesday on Q95, the big station. Dominicans journeyed beyond our shores for decades in search of economic opportunities and educational advancement. Many are